Uh, okay. The funds for this are part of our expansion of funds from the State Department of Health. So these funds are still have to fall under the rubric of our Department of Health grant. That grant is specifically to get students directly into medical school. Now, you know, we use it a lot for our post-baccalaureate programs. We have a program at CUNY School of Medicine, which is a medical school BSMD program, and we support a program there. And we support a research program at CCNY with the idea that students who are juniors and seniors and are interested in research, we support them with the idea that they'll either become PhD candidates or they'll go to medical school. So these funds have to not do any one of those things in particular, but they have to fall under the rubric of we are supporting underrepresented students in their quest to get into medical school, which is narrow but very wide. You can look at, oh, Jenny's undercutting me here. No, I'm sorry. We can look at things like, we have very specific populations that we're looking to sort of target. And these are populations that aren't necessarily part of our programs that we have now. For instance, students who are in community colleges, or underrepresented students such as Native Americans that we really have a dearth of in our programs. We're also looking at programs that provide mentoring, either mentoring to medical students or training medical students to be mentors elsewhere. We would also be looking at programs that have shadowing or that have research components to them. So those are the types of things that we are looking to do at this juncture. I don't know, Nilda, do you want to add anything? Nilda was part of our...
Yeah. So I think that if it could be also that you have a program or component that you wish to enhance, yeah. Possibly, you know, using this as seed money, because in several places you will see that one of the things is you have to have used up this money by March 31st of 2023. And there is not necessarily any guarantee that beyond this one-time grant that it would be continued. So, you know, sometimes you want to expand, you want to maybe start with things that you've mentioned, the community college, or you want to reach out to some Native American community, and it could be your seed money. And then, you know, hopefully it will take off from there. But one of the key things is that you pretty much would have exhausted the funding by March 31st. And maybe the program could continue because you've paid all your bills and maybe it ends in April, but that's a key thing, keeping it to the state's fiscal calendar.
So as Nilda was just saying, I mean, you could, if one of the things that you're doing is providing stipends to students, you can, you know, pay the stipends for the academic year. By the end of March, you can get them, you know, if you can give the students more during the months of July to March, and then not give them anything for April, May, and June, that's okay. All right, so it's just, you have to be a little bit creative in how this money could be spent post March 31st. The other thing is another population, which I forgot to mention, is Black men. We are really looking to, the deans of the medical schools are very interested in expanding, increasing the number of Black men in medical school. So that is also one of our target populations. So if you have programs that are geared specifically towards Black men, or if you have programs that are geared towards students who've applied to medical school but haven't gotten in yet. And, you know, that doesn't necessarily have to be a post-bac program. It could be some other kind of either academic support or mentoring or whatever. Those programs are also, would fall under the rubric of what we're looking for. And I think Nilda also hit on something which is really important when we start to look at the responses, is sustainability. How is this going to be continued on? You know, because we don't have any guarantee that this will be more than 1 year's worth of funding. It's every year, you know, going back to the legislature, and as you all know, you know, pushing the legislature, asking for more money.
Could this be, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
Could this be funding be used to bring in a consultant or an expert of some kind to help us build a program?
Well, let me put it this way. I would prefer not, all right? I was talking to someone the other day who had an idea for a proposal, and they were going to take about 87% of it and spend it on a coordinator and administrative funds. And I said, no, they couldn't do that. The intent of this is to support the students. So the money should be going directly for some kind of programmatic support.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions at this point?
So it's really one that I want to understand well. If the money isn't spent by, because I'm looking at if one is going to start a program, for example, most of these programs would run with students, you know, like mentoring or any kind of shadowing would be this summer. So if one was to start establishing something for this summer, it's a bit late in the game, you know, to begin with. But if, let's say, one was able to do that and didn't spend that money, does it go back to the state, or does it fall back to AMSNY?
Well, if the money is not spent, let me just put it this way. If the money is not spent, the state will take it back. And then there is no guarantee that we'll get the same amount of money next year, because they'll say, well, you can't use it, so why should we give it to you? So the money would come to us, but we would then spend the money in some other way to help support students.
And can the money be used to support housing for the participants of the program?
Good question.
Yeah, good question. I hadn't thought, sorry, no, I hadn't really thought about that, but yes, if you can make a case that that is going to help the students, yes, you can, absolutely.
Could the money be used to support students to go to the PASS program who are struggling to pass step 1 or step 2?
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking about that, but I thought it was for first year students. I saw in the it's for any year student. I thought it was first year. I saw in the RFP.
Well,
up to first year is what I thought I saw.
First year entering medical school and M1s are really our target population, but we can also, you can also, you know, this is going to help with retention. So if we can make a case that this is retention, absolutely.
Can you have multiple initiatives? So let's say this is $80,000. I set aside 10,000 for 2 students to go to PATH. Then I set aside some money for students to do research. And so can multiple initiatives be put under the grant?
Yeah. Yeah. And remember, the total dollar amount is $400,000. You don't have to put it in for 80,000. You could put it in for more. You could put it in for less. You know, that's just what we're figuring around 5 awards. So, you know, I think from my perspective, the best thing to do is to look at how you could best use the funds to help support the students and put in for that.
Okay. Thank you.
Joseph, you look like you're going to say something. No. Okay.
And can you purchase computers for the students with that?
We'd prefer not to. We'd prefer that it not go for equipment or for administration personnel.
No. When I say computers, because I was querying some of our first years about some of the challenges they had in transitioning to med school, and they said buying a laptop was actually a struggle. So that obviously that's going to impact their performance if they're choosing between the laptop that they need, because it's heavily dependent on that, and it's not something that's actually, it's not like you know, you don't get an allotment when you get to med school. Like, here's your laptop. It's not issued.
Right.
And I'm not sure if it's factored into the financial aid cost either, a laptop, even though, I mean, it sounds like everyone needs one, but it's not in the cost.
I don't want to speak out of turn, so Joe, let me know if this is not appropriate, but if there were a stipend for costs associated with attending medical school that are not covered by loans, or, you know, taking out a loan to buy a laptop might be, or for other costs that the stipend would cover would be, you know, silly. Maybe that would be a way to, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that would work. That would work.
I would think possibly whatever you guys propose, that you make a case for it.
Yeah.
So Mel, if you're saying that this is a hardship for a group of the students, and definitely they need a laptop, because that's the way instruction is and assignments are submitted and so forth. You know, it was, you know, your articles that you have shared with us, the hidden cost of attending medical school and being able to do electives and, you know, a variety of things. If you don't have the resources, you can't have an engage in full experience. And it may limit, you know, your professionalism, your growth.
Okay. And then thanks, Nilda. And the other thing we thought about, because I had a meeting with our Office of Academic Support this afternoon to go over, you know, our proposal. And one of the things we also talked about was, which is a big challenge for our students, is the neuropsych testing that some of them need for accommodations, which is extremely costly. And what ends up happening for a lot of them is they don't get accommodation for step 1 or step 2 when they need it. And students who can afford it get the accommodation, get the pass, because they take it based on what they're able to do with their bodies. And then the students who can't afford it will get those multiple step failures before they pass, because it's just not, you know, it's $5,000. It's not part of the budget, and the students end up suffering and looking bad because of it.
So, okay, let me respond this way. That certainly is a piece of retention. Okay, so I'm going to say that first, and then secondly, I'm going to say the way we are, AMS is going to be evaluated on the funds that they've given us is how many additional students have we helped. Okay, so if we can make a case that we have helped X number of students so that they are able to take the step 1, step 2 tests in a, you know, that in a way that will help them pass, and maintain medical school, then I think if you can make that rationale to us, and we can then say, yes, these funds were provided to help retain students in medical school, then I think it is possible, then I think it's an okay expenditure.
Okay,
Okay.
got it. Thank you.
Does this extend to the training space as well? So for residents?
No, not for residents.
Thank you. So for example, I have some medical students who are transitioning into residency who can't afford to move. I wouldn't be able to use it for that.
No, because this is, the intent is really to prepare students for medical school.
Great, thank you.
And I'll stretch it to retain students in medical school,
Okay.
but and anything else?
No, this has been really helpful. Thank you.
So Joe, that means it's not for, I'm sorry, it's not for pipeline programs then into medical school.
Yes, it's for both. It is to get students into medical school, and we're expanding it so that it can be to retain students who are in medical school. But I think Nilda and Jenny made, put it very nicely and succinctly, is that if you can do a good justification for why these funds will be spent in this way, and it will either help get students in or stay in medical school, then that is definitely something within the bounds of what we're looking for. Reg, you look confused, or like I didn't answer your question.
No, that's just how I look sometimes. So I was thinking, you said it can't be for existing programs.
No,
So
it can be.
I'm thinking about swag, always thinking about that. You
Right.
already have some funding for the
Yeah,
medical success, so would that be contradictory or?
yeah, no, it shouldn't be used for swag because we have other funds for swag. So that, but it certainly could be used for providing research opportunities for students who might be interested in going into swag, right?
Right.
And what's
does-
swag?
Pardon me?
What is swag?
Oh, swag. So Dr. Miller is from Mount Sinai, and swag is a program that we are doing with them, which targets scholar athletes in undergraduate school. And once it gets up and running, our intent is to target Black males. It's another one of it's our first Black male initiative. Yes, Anthony, thank you. And right now, we've got funding from our Cabrini grant. We have funding from our DOH grant, which is not part of this $400,000 to support that. So. Hi, Carla.
And the money could be also used for, when we have these mentors that the students are shadowing or doing research with, can we pay them stipends?
Yes, you can pay them stipends.
You can pay the mentor stipends?
Yeah. We pay mentor stipends for our CCNY program. So I have to tell you, they're not large stipends. What we pay for our CCNY mentors is $500 a year. It's not like it's, but you could use it for mentor stipends, and you could also use it for lab supplies if you're looking at people going into labs and working.
Yeah, I know our dean started that when he took over. Anybody who has a summer student for research, And again, it's a modest amount, but he wants to show his appreciation. Because we don't need everybody to have the minority tax, women's tax, and
Right.
nice person tax. You want to, you keep taking all these students in, you get a little something just to show that appreciation. I think it's a good thing.
For the mentor stipend, is there a cap? Can you give us an idea of what that would look like? Because
I would say no more than $500. That's what we pay our, I mean, really, it's just a token. That's what we pay our CCNY mentors. And, it really is just a token of appreciation, as Mill was saying.
thank you.
Yeah, and Joe, and Catherine, I think that's really important, because if you're talking about the sustainability of it, the next year the school's going to have to pick that up. So if they start it,
Yes.
they need to commit to the funds moving forward for ad infinitum.
Right.
We usually give them an Uber Eats card for a meal, but $500 is good. It's better than what we are doing.
Hi, Jill. I'm sorry for coming late. So you may have already discussed this. Good afternoon, everyone. Post-bac programs to support tuition for post-bac programs?
Yes. I would be reticent. I know you already have one. I would be reticent about starting a post-bac program because it's only 1 year's worth of commitment here. So, but let me just tell you a little bit. We actually discussed this earlier. So what we do now with our post-bac programs, especially for masters, we have 3 masters post-bac programs. We pay the students $18,000 a year. We give them a stipend of $18,000 a year, and we give the school funds to help support the program. Okay. If anyone has a post-bac program that they are looking to support and the students get more than that a year, then we would cap what our contribution would be at $18,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Joe. Just wondering, is there anything off limits? Food, I don't know.
Alcohol.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I don't even know if that's up. With Department of Health, you cannot spend any money on alcohol. So that's, no, I don't think so. As long as it's like for students, if it's supplies, if it's MCAT prep, whatever it is that is needed to support the students.
Could this be,
Oh.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Lynn.
Okay, thanks, Adrian. Another question is, could it go towards curriculum development? So it's not direct, it's indirectly supporting the students?
Curriculum development for the students or for mentors or?
Well, both.
Yes, it could go for that. Particularly one of the things that we talked about earlier is, for instance, if you want to start a mentoring program and you want to start a mentoring training program to train, medical students to mentors others, I mean, that in a way is a very good use of these funds, because it would be the development of one thing. It would be, it could be done in a year, and it would have long-lasting impact in that you would have this curriculum that could continue to be used. So if you're interested in doing something like that, that is definitely within the bounds.
And the last question is, are indirect costs allowed or not allowed?
No indirect costs.
Yeah. Another question, could this be used to support undergrad students and medical students to go to the National AMSNY conference?
Let me get back to you on that one. I mean, I can certainly see the benefit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we just got back from Orlando at the conference that they had. This next year, it's in Hartford, and it is an incredibly phenomenal experience for undergrads and medical students who are, you know, looking for residency. The plenary sessions are incredible. The fact that students say, I've never been in a place with this many Black and brown students in my life who are aspiring docs or on their, it's just inspirational to all of them. So.
I agree. It's the struggle every year for, you know, the ones we can support. There are rules for the ones we can send, but the ones who are left behind are always very disappointed because, you know, the networking capabilities are very, you know, they're phenomenal. So yeah.
Thanks, Joe, for getting back to us on that.
Okay.
Yeah. One question I have is, let's say I'm doing an MCAT prep and I know that the funding is, you know, there's going to be a substantial amount of money left behind. Can I prepay? And is that allowed? Prepay for, you know, maybe the next foreseeable year or two?
You know, that's too far out. You could.
Okay.
I had that experience in question for our STEP grant. And whatever expenditures I do has to be like obtained and used for the most part by the end of that fiscal cycle, which is June 30th. I can't be thinking, well, July 1, I start my summer prep component. No. So we don't want to, you know, if you said, oh, I'm going to subscribe, you know, reserve slots for 2 or 3 years, I don't think that would go over with the state. And what will happen is that you lose that money that you've set aside for those years beyond March 31st.
Okay, thanks.
So I wasn't clear before, so let me try to clarify it. The state fiscal year goes from April 1st to March 31st. The contract goes from July 1st to June 30th. So the programs can continue from April 1st to June 30th, but you have to have spent all the money before that.
Wow. So realistically, if you said yes to AMAC, we could still do that because April, the conference happens in April every year.
Yeah, you could prepay for everything before that. That would, you know, that would work.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right.
Joe,
Yeah.
it's good as people are thinking of another question, because something that was brought up about the indirect cost, I think that needs to be shared with the deans, because whatever grants, whatever we get, whatever the percent they feel they should be entitled to,
Right.
so that whatever layers of signing off at our individual institutions, it should be like sort of a blanket statement, the resources for this particular grant and cost. That could be part of their in-kind contribution or whatever they want to call it. And that will minimize us going back and forth. You say, no, you can't use this, or if you just mention it to the deans.
Okay.
As an aside, most of us are part of CDMA. I think that the questions you have raised and suggestions and thoughts about what are the needs of our students, that may be something that we can start discussing. And if there could be some sort of initiative, you know, advocacy for these things, like whether it is, you know, additional support that students may need to prepare for the boards, whether, payments for the learning disability, neurological assessments, and 5,000, I think is a low ball. I think it can be as much as $10,000.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, my
And
God.
then depending on where it's done and the various components, we pick up the tab, by the way, because then we have control over the data that comes out of that. But I think that's another thing, the hidden cost, like the cost of laptops and stuff like that. We can identify things, and I don't know how best we can go forward in terms of the legislature. Identifying for continuing medical students. These are some of the real issues that some of them are confronting, and how not lacking financial resources can impact on their performance, and their progression. So, because just listening to some things, could I use it for this? Because your students, and here are some needs of students. So.
And I think that's a great point. I think, I just have to tell you that my own philosophy about all of this and all of the funds that we get from the state is that these funds are to be used to benefit the students. And that's really the bottom line on all of this. The funds should really benefit the students. And as long as you can provide a good rationale for how it will benefit the students. I think that I would support that. I would support that. I'm looking at Nilda and Jenny here.
All right.
All right.
Great.
No more
Thank you
questions?
very much.
Yeah, Joe, thank you.
Yeah, Carla, if you want to stay on for a minute, I can go through what we talked about in the beginning. So,
Hey, thank you. Would appreciate that. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah. And Joe, I look forward to being on the scholarship committee if there's room for me. I love that.
there is definitely room for you. Anybody else going to raise your hand? Mill, we need a man. We need a couple of men. Oh, Lynn, that would be great.
Yeah. How many?
Great.
I do need.
Just reviewing scholarship applications. Is it interviews also, or just
Yep,
reviewing?
interviews also.
Okay.
Interviews also.
Okay.
It's
All
a
right.
lot of fun. The students are amazing.
The students really are
They are
amazing.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
When?
Yeah, I'd be
Right.
interested. If you just give me some information on it, I'll look at the. Yeah,
Okay.
probably get in there.
Reg,
Thank you.
if you want to volunteer your time?
You-
And it's a finite
Wait a
amount.
minute, wait a minute. You want to volunteer more of my time?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I think I'm tapped out.
Actually wondering if we need to write a paycheck out to you at some point.
I'm good.
Give him a $500 stipend.
Yeah.
I'm going to appeal the swag decision, by the way. I'll call you later.
Okay, all right.
So for the scholarship, it's a finite amount of time.
It
There's
is.
Yeah.
sort of a peak and re-interview. It's not year round. It's within the most, I think, 2 months or less. It's, it takes place. So it is, you're making a very long-term commitment. It's just possibly what's going on at the time we are reviewing and interviewing that kind. But it's just the most, I think, 2 months.
Okay. Is it like May, June, or what's the time period?
It's like June, the applications are due mid-June, and then everything needs to be completed in terms of interview and decision by mid-July.
Okay.
Sometimes it runs into the last couple of weeks of July, depending on people's vacations.
All right.
But
I
that's
am in.
terrific.
All right. All right. Thanks. Goodbye.
Okay, all right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone. Take care.
Everyone.
So Joe, before I sign off,